Prisoners of the Ghostland is a brand new film that premiered at Sundance Film Festival that's directed by Sion Sono and written by Aaron Hendry and Reza Sixo Safai, which are two people that have really never written anything before. But either way, obviously I saw this film at Sundance Film Festival. I didn't attend the actual film festival. I just witnessed a virtual screening of this film. And I was really excited going into this film because it's got Nicolas Cage and Sion Sono directing. It's just a really interesting and promising collaboration. And I really haven't seen much of anything from Sion Sono except for Love Exposure, which is a film that I absolutely loved. I think that is one of the most hilarious and brilliantly satirical films that I've seen in a very long time. And even though it's 4 hours, it just really flew the fuck by. And even though I've only seen that from Sion Sono, pretty much everybody that I talked to who has dived a lot more into his filmography say that a lot of his films are really great. So I had a lot of high hopes going into this because Sion Sono is somebody that doesn't really let people down. As the title of this video suggests, I was deeply disappointed in this film. And I found it to be really underwhelming and kind of mediocre in a lot of ways, and I was kind of baffled by this fact, to be honest with you, because again, had a lot of promise to it. But let me start off by saying this. Sion Sono apparently had a heart attack pre-production. He was going to film this in America, but Nicolas Cage really implored him to just stay in Japan and film it there, to put less stress on his condition. So that's what they did. They ended up shooting this film and producing it in Japan. And, I really don't think that has anything to do with why, I was disappointed by this film. But it is an interesting fact to know that, unfortunately, Sion Sono was going through something that seemed really critical to his health while filming this. And that's just really unfortunate, and I hope Sion Sono just gets better and doesn't really have to deal with anything like that anymore. And I will say, the first 10 minutes of this film seemed really promising. It was filmed beautifully, like in terms of the camera work and the aesthetic production. It just looked like it had a vision to it. And it starts off really intense, and this looks like something that is going to be really artful, and something that is also going to be entertaining. Like, it just seems like the best of both worlds are coming together here. And that was my impression of it, like, the first 10 minutes of the film. And then the quality of the film just seems to drop in a lot of different ways. And let me just start off by saying the worst thing about this film. It's the writing. And when I was watching this film, I had no idea that Sion Sono didn't write this film. But now that makes a whole lot of sense, because the writing to me was by far the most mediocre aspect of this film. And before doing this review, I looked up that these two people, Aaron Henry and, I can't remember his name, Reza Sixo Safai, these people have never really written anything. I mean, they've written some things before, but never like a full-length film. And in my head, I'm just thinking to myself, like, why did Sion Sono really even get into this project? What did he see in the writing of this film that made him want to do it? Because the writing is pretty bad, guys. Like, I'm kind of being nice by saying it's mediocre. The writing is pretty bad. Like, in terms of the story, it's really predictable. We've seen this story a million times, and it doesn't really do anything at all to subvert your expectations. It just goes every route that you would expect it to go. And that's just really unfortunate. It's something that really dragged the film down. And not only that, but like the writing of the dialogue and the characters and even the execution of certain scenes. Like, even though I really don't like the writing of this film, the directing isn't really stellar either. Like, the directing is really good at moments, and then other times just feels really lackluster and just really misses the mark. And that's another huge problem I have with this film, because this entire film, even though you could tell they worked really hard on the production in terms of the set design and the costume, just the aesthetic production overall, you can tell there was a lot of effort poured into it. But the entire film, you just feel like you're watching a movie. Like, there's hardly any moment besides maybe like the first 5 or 10 minutes where you feel, okay, I'm engaged here. But for the vast majority of the rest of it, you really feel like you're just watching something that's artificial. And that was another thing that really dragged this film down for me, because there was no real sense of authenticity or immersion. And it's just really wild because there are actual moments in this film that, again, are immersive and are kind of impressive from a directing standpoint. And it's crazy because this film felt like it kind of lacked an identity, because it kind of goes back and forth between just this silly B-grade type of film that we've seen a billion times before, and then having some aspects of it that feel like, oh, there's a vision here, and he's actually trying to get the audience immersed into the situation. And I felt like if it just mixed those better, then I maybe could have got on board with it. But it's really hard to do that. Like, Mandy is a film that basically committed to two different halves. You have the first half that is just brilliant art house filmmaking, the aesthetic production, the lighting, the color palette, just the overall vision of it is absolutely incredible. Like, it's really immersive stuff. And then you have the second half of Mandy that just goes full-blown, super entertaining, revenge horror flick that just doesn't let the foot off the gas and just goes all the way with what it's going for. Here, it's like, whenever like the B-grade stuff was kind of happening, I couldn't tell if it was just B-grade or if the writing's just horrible. Like, I feel like it didn't really commit to what it was going for. And if it had done that, then maybe I would have enjoyed it more. Like, maybe if the B-grade stuff was just had full devotion and full commitment, you could just really have fun with it, like on an entertainment level, then that'd be one thing. But I just felt like you could never really tell what they were going for in terms of, are they trying to be purposely bad, or is this just bad? And that's something that's kind of hard to get into when you're watching the film, because you don't really know how to feel, you don't really know how to perceive the film either. There are some cool Nick Cage moments, and you know, this film didn't even have to have that crazy Nick Cage stuff in it, and I still would have liked it, just depending on the vision. But again, I felt like it didn't fully commit to that either. I feel like they were trying to utilize Nick Cage for that crazy Nick Cage shtick that everybody was expecting out of it, but I feel like it doesn't really go all the way with that either. And it was just disappointing. I feel like there's a lot about this film that was just disappointing. Again, the fact that I just felt like it didn't commit to its identities made it to where I really just couldn't get into it, on top of the fact that I just think the writing is bad. The writing is definitely, for me, the worst aspect of this film. Directing isn't brilliant. It's serviceable. It's good. It has moments of actual greatness, like a few small moments of like, wow, that's good stuff. There's some interesting symbolism used with the gumball machine that I thought was good. Like, I actually enjoyed that. Seemed a little underutilized, but I did enjoy that aspect of the film. This was one of my most anticipated films of 2021, and it let me down quite a bit. I mean, I don't think it's terrible. I could see why somebody would still like this film, because there are things to it that are entertaining and are fun to watch. And again, there are moments of genuine direction that was actually pretty good. So I could see somebody not really being as frustrated as I was, but maybe it's just because I expected a lot more out of Sion Sono in this film that I was more let down by it. And also, I had no idea that two random people that have really never written anything wrote this film. If I had known that, I would have probably lessened my expectations a little bit. But don't get the wrong impression that I'm only dogging on this film because I went in with like gigantic expectations. I could have went in with like super low expectations and still probably would have been like, still has bad writing, still couldn't really get immersed to it. But I don't know, guys. It's kind of disappointing because there's a lot about this film that I just couldn't get into and thought could have been a whole lot better, in terms of story, in terms of character, in terms of just the writing of the dialogue. And I just wish that if this film would have committed to something and had full confidence in it, then it could have been a much more impressive piece of filmmaking. But instead, I feel like we get something that doesn't really know what to do with what it has, and doesn't really pick something to go with, and unfortunately results in something that just seems really artificial, something that doesn't really feel genuine, something that I really can't immerse myself into, even on a B grade level. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give Prisoners of the Ghostland a solid 5 out of 10.
It's crazy evil!
Yeah, I hate to bring this information to you guys, too, because, I'm not sure, you might watch this film and you might actually really enjoy it a lot more than I do. And that's fine. I hope you enjoy the film, because I don't want anybody to be disappointed by a film they were highly looking forward to. But I do warn you that it's not real, in terms of the writing and in terms of some of the direction, it's not really something as brilliant as I think previous Sion Sono films offered. But anyway, that's all I got to say about Prisoners of the Ghostland. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about it, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.